One of these days I'll go to CES myself. For those not in the know, CES is a tech expo. And yes, while there are companies sometimes advertising gaming tech, like the MSI Claw, CES is ultimately more than video games. It represents the future of tech. It represents what tech could be. It's like Tomorrowland from Disney World if it were good and realistic. So the big question is, what's there this year? What even is at CES? Well, there's a number of different types of products. Some are realistic-ish work-in-progress devices. These products may not be ready for mass market, but at the very least they're certainly ready to be tried by the CES attendees. There's also a lot of extremely high concept products, really cool products, but products I don't think will ever make it to mass market. These tend to be robots, and with the advent of AI, there are more and more robots powered by AI. And last but certainly not least, products that are ready to be on the market. Products that may be releasing this year. Kind of like the MSI Claw. That's supposed to release in like a few months. Crazy, isn't it? There are also other products that may not be ready this year, but they'll certainly be ready next year. Anyways, the main reason why I'm so interested in CES is because my main hobby is technology. Not just video games, obviously. Yes, there are some fears that the machines will take over and kill all of us, but I didn't see anything like that at CES 2024, so we won't have to worry about that, at least until next year. Also, ever since the advent of AI last year, people have been just trying to make use of AI in some capacity. And CES does have far more interesting use of AI than just generative AI. And I think generative AI is like the most boring type of AI, because everyone knows what they're used for. Whereas AI and like a robot that actually does things is interesting. And who knows, maybe in a couple of years we'll have a robot that's fully sentient. But for now, we have to focus on the now. Today. Here are 10 CES projects I think will be really interesting, in no particular order. Number 1 is, of course, the MSI Claw. You know, I never talked about this device, and that's because it's hard for me to gauge where this lies exactly. I'm not really caught up with Intel's mobile offerings, so I don't really know where they would lie compared to, AMD. It seems like it'll be a decent competitor to the ROG Ally. It has crazy battery claims though. They say 50% extra battery. And I somehow severely doubt it. But you know what? I'd like to try it out. Unfortunately for me though, it wouldn't be fiscally responsible of me to buy yet another PC handheld. As much as I'd love to do battery testing on the MSI Claw, it's probably not going to happen, at least not anytime soon. Still though, an Intel-based handheld is going to be interesting, especially in this AMD-dominated era. But we all know battery life is the one true stat, and unfortunately, I'm not totally confident in the battery life in this thing, but we shall see. Next up is the Rabbit R1. There's a lot of questions as to what this device is, or what its purpose is, and I understand the sentiment. The way I see it, it's sort of like an AI secretary, a secretary that doesn't need pay. All the videos tell me that I can just tell it to do this, and it'll just do it. It is in fact powered by AI, but it's not generative AI, so I don't really see that much of an issue with it, personally. Still though, it's one of those things I really have to try out for myself. Maybe I'll try it when it comes out. Next up are XReal Air 2 Ultras. Yes, many of my peers in the YouTube space have used XReal glasses, but I haven't. And so I really want to try them out. Part of me is skeptical that these devices are actually worth it, but another part of me just really wants to try it out. It supposedly has multi-monitor support as is. Could it be overkill for the Steam Deck? Maybe, but honestly, I don't have to look down at my device or even hold my phone up or hold my Steam Deck up as I game. I can just hold the controller in a natural position and look wherever I want, and the game will be there in front of me. Portable monitors are nice, and in recent years they've been getting smaller and smaller. But this could replace all of my portable monitors, and if it's good enough, it might even replace my actual monitors. Next up is the Lenovo ThinkBook Plus Gen 5 Hybrid. So it's a 2-in-1 device, but the real gimmick here is that it's part Android tablet, part Windows 11 laptop. It's easier if you just watch a video to explain it. I love Lenovo's concept laptops. In fact, Lenovo sent me one of their laptops that's a concept laptop, and I've been trying it out and I love the heck out of it. I'll make a full review on this, but my review is nowhere near ready. My experience with Android tablets have been less than satisfactory, and that's because they've just always lagged behind the iPad. But it's been a couple of years, and I'm ready to see how good Android tablets are. And I want to see how this laptop can actually juggle the dual task of being an Android tablet and a Windows 11 laptop. Next up is Llynks. Llynks is a keyboard made for the iPhone 15. It's made by tech content creator Michael Fisher, and it's essentially just a keyboard affixed to your iPhone. While I may be younger, I do remember Blackberries existing. You know, Blackberries with their dedicated keyboards, and I always thought those were really cool. And now they're bringing back physical keyboards for phones. But I suppose the big question is it worth it? Is it actually worth using over just having a touchscreen? Not to mention, you have the ability to swipe your sentences. I can swipe my sentences and I can type a lot faster than just typing manually on my phone. It's not as fast as typing on a mechanical keyboard, but still. The big question, of course, being, does anyone actually benefit from a device like this? And most importantly, do you still benefit from autocorrect and all of that stuff? Its use case is a little more questionable, but it's something worth being excited over. The next one is a very futuristic EV, an EV that's probably not going to make it to market anytime soon, and I'm not even sure if it'll make it in my own lifetime. Essentially, it's the Honda Space Hub. There's a lot of room for the passengers, and as you can see, you can look outside and it looks like the entire thing is just glass, even though clearly it's not. It also looks like it has self-driving capabilities, which I totally want. What I want to do is be able to drive to places and then not even have to really drive. I can just either A, let my car drive while I take a nap, or B, play on my Steam Deck, or Steam Deck 2, maybe even Steam Deck 3 by the time this thing comes out. I don't know. This would definitely be most useful for road trips to different cities. No, you couldn't go off-roading or anything on this, but I don't do that anyways, so it's not a huge deal to me, but it might be for you, especially if you like going camping and stuff. Next up is TimeKettle's X1 AI Interpreter Hub. Yes, it's an AI-powered translation hub thingy. Essentially, you take one earpiece and you give someone else the other earpiece, and it should automatically translate dialogue between you and the other person. The problem with machine translations typically is that sometimes different language rules don't necessarily translate properly. Most Asian languages have honorifics that are basically ignored in English, and sometimes machine translations are kind of wonky. With AI, sentences can be rewritten to be more natural sounding, but that doesn't necessarily mean the translations are more accurate. And sometimes certain grammatical rules don't necessarily translate that well to English. Like for example, Vietnamese. Every single word in Vietnamese is one syllable, and some concepts translated from English to Vietnamese require you using two different words to, make up for it. I'm not like a linguist or anything, but it is worth mentioning. Still though, as someone that's bilingual, as in I speak English and Vietnamese, it would be interesting to see how this thing fares. TimeKettle also sells a number of different translators as well, but this is the first one of theirs that's supposedly powered by AI. Still though, I want to see how good it is and see how it compares to actual translations. Next up isn't a specific TV, but rather a specific type of TV. One I've never seen in the wild before. That being QDEL, or QDEL. QDEL stands for Quantum Dot Electroluminescence, and it's supposed to be a holy grail of TV tech. It's theoretically like an OLED. Generally fast response times, true blacks, and an infinite contrast ratio. And all of this without any sort of burn-in whatsoever, the one main weakness of OLED TVs. It's supposedly entirely powered with quantum dots, no LED backlights or anything related to OLED. Interestingly enough, I've only seen one outlet report on these new TVs, that being Digital Trends, and this is where I'm getting most of my information from. The big question for me though is, how much will this cost when it comes out? Because let's be perfectly frank, the second biggest weakness of OLED is just how expensive OLED is. OLED TVs aren't cheap, and I've heard that OLED processors aren't necessarily efficient either. I know nothing about the manufacturing of TVs, especially quantum dot TVs, and I'm sure it's going to be expensive. But if they can dial the price down to be almost as much as OLED TVs, then it might be worth it. It's basically an OLED that never burns out. I'd pay a little more for that privilege. Still though, digital trends implies that Sharp's focus may not necessarily be TVs, but other devices like smartphones and computer monitors and things that are just generally smaller. I would love to see one of these in person, but you would also love to see more? A Steam Deck with QLED technology. Next up is the release of RTX Remix. Technically, this isn't a product you can buy, and this isn't even really a consumer-facing product. This is more for modders. One of the coolest things about PC gaming is modding, and one of the most popular mod categories for older titles is essentially remastering a game, giving higher fidelity textures, higher fidelity models, and all of that stuff. Now with RTX Remix, you can apply this to lighting as well. And the best part is you're not paying full price for a remaster. And while there are some modders looking to sell their mods, the hope is that people can just make free remasters of games. Look no further than Half-Life 2 RTX. While Half-Life 2 isn't a bad looking game by today's standards, it does look quite dated. But this community driven project seems like a remaster that Valve won't give you. And because it's now available to modders to use freely on whatever game they want, you should expect to see a renaissance of older titles getting ray tracing updates. Heck, in theory, newer titles that don't have RTX support could theoretically get ray trace remixed. It's hard to say for certain though, and while yes, this is an Nvidia release, you can activate ray tracing on AMD hardware provided it's strong enough. I wouldn't recommend trying to run these on the Steam Deck, but you could always stream it to the Steam Deck from your own PC. And finally, what looks like a portable hologram generator? A portable hologram generator? That's interesting. You know, I would be very interested in having this tech for myself. I could put my own avatar in the hologram and you could see her. At least that's the idea. The big question is, what type of 3D model do they use? I do have a 3D model, but it's a VRM model. You know, made for use with Vroid. Whatever the case is, if this ever comes out and I ever get my hands on it, I will figure out how to use it. So yes, that are 10 inventions I'm primarily interested in. CES isn't just about entertainment or even TVs or even cars. It's also about advancements with cooking, medical advances, and of course, robots. The key topic for this CES is of course AI. AI isn't always useful for everything. Like for example, AI in a car. If it's not Delamain literally driving me, why should I care? But at the end of the day, it's just an expo. Yes, it gives us a glimpse of the future, and yes, there are some products that'll come out to market. But nothing is ever guaranteed. The new wave of AI-powered everything, it could be the future, or it could totally vanish, kind of like what happened to NFTs. My dream tech though would be to be able to clone my consciousness and put it in a robot body. That way my lingering will lives on forever. If you like this video, please press the like button and check out our other videos. And if you like those other videos as well, be sure to press the subscribe button and share the good gospel of high-tech lowlife with your friends. Furthermore, we have a community Discord for enlightened individuals such as you. And if you wish to further support high-tech lowlife, be sure to check out our Patreon page. Links in the description.